Take that, tree! This wood is delicious. What is it? Is this mahogany?
Duramboros, a mountainous name for a mountainous creature, the unholy result of someone who one day went, what happens when you take a mountain, a bull, and a flail? It's beautiful! And thus the first baby Duramboros came into the world, an absolute behemoth of a brute wyvern. He is colossally strong, and there is an argument to be made that amongst the herbivores, he rules supreme. What? A walking mountain, if you ever saw one. Two humps are mimicking the peaks, and grass and moss and mushrooms grow delicately across the length of him. Inside the humps are storage, fat, for when he needs it. He can induce a burn-like state, his enrage, pouring through the energy with reckless abandon to invigorate his body and increase his speed and power. But the growth upon it is not simply a byproduct that is gone ignored by the Duramboros. No, the moss helps retain moisture, and the mushrooms, in an absolute emergency, provide a food source. And later on, once enough has formed, once the layers of flora have grown thick, well, they add a shock-absorbent property to Duramboros' already legendary hide. To all but the mightiest of foes, it is nigh impenetrable. It is thick beyond compare, able to turn away even the most ferocious of onslaughts with presumptuous ease. A mix of fat, hide, and scale intertwining to form one of nature's most impervious suits of armor. The Duramboros can go crashing through the undergrowth, tearing the forest asunder, and nary feel a thing as he is on his merry way.
Dance with him, Fred. It's like, oh, what's that? You want to dance with him?
Oh, that feels good. Hey, guess what?
Despite his defense being undoubtedly impressive, well, he still subscribes to the school of a best offense is in fact the best. Well, you know where I'm going with. You know where I'm going with this. He's not called the Tailhammer Wyvern for nothing. It's because he has a hammer for a tail. That's why he is. It's really quite self-evident. But this thing is a perfectly honed natural weapon, a counterbalance to his immense bulk forward. It can shatter through rock and hunter and monster and damn near every bloody thing that gets in his way. He is aggressive, territorial, in fact more so than most carnivorous beasts. A mere sense that there might be another living thing daring to stand in the presence of this enigmatic creature will send him into a rage that'll come undoubtedly fueled with his tail-mounted wrecking ball.
Who touched tail? Huh? You touched tail!
See, he does not just swing it around or slam it into the ground, although he does and can, with earth-shattering consequences. But no, Duramboros is a curious fellow. Being a huge fan of Thor, he can't help but copy his idol. hurtling himself round in a spiral of destruction, the tail screaming through the air, obliterating to a pulp all it comes into contact with. He will eventually let the weight of it carry him, lean back his body, and allow him to be pulled through the air, slamming down using his gargantuan size to turn all caught into bloody pulp upon the floor. This is an exhausting technique for him, but one that he employs often. In fact, Duramboros were almost classified as a flying wyvern, as a certain few talented individuals are able to go one step further. Though this does require keen coordination and a strong sense of balance, blinded, exhausted, it takes not a lot to throw him off, and the spin becomes less a force to be feared and more one to be cheered as he comes tumbling down, unable to control his own immense velocity. Though that does not stop him for long. He is bovine in nature, horns pointed forward, not sharp but sturdy and thick, able to charge, churning up the ground in a display of sheer terrifying speed and force that'd make a Diablos blush. Though the fascination of a Duramboros is very much when it is not fighting for survival, for it is a curious creature. Its main diet consists of bark, wood, timber it can find in its preferred home of the Misty Peaks. It smashes apart forests and consumes the splinters, absorbing what nutrients it can and storing them in its humps. To have these cracked or shattered is life-threatening, for it no longer can store the energy reserves it needs to operate. In fact, it will slowly run out of steam, quite literally, as it can be seen rising between shattered husks. Though Duramboros do like to spend a lot of their time burrowed underground, surviving long periods of no food to be found by becoming one with the earth, their backs acting as the only marker that they're there, not responding to those that would walk upon what they assume are small little hillocks and not one mighty animal. It is able to both withstand combat and beat the likes of Zenoga, Lagiacrus. Even a Brachydios has its work cut out for it, trying to make a dent in a fully grown male. Though the Duramboros are interesting when it comes to their mating cycle. The females gather in herds for collective safety. The males, however, are lone wanderers, more aggressive by far. They will occasionally seek out these herds, propagate their genus, and be off back to their territory and home. Any females born will join the herd, any males will reach a certain age and strike out into the world, looking for a bit of land to call theirs, sometimes coming to blows with a fellow Duramboros as they fight for control. The experience or the youth, well, sometimes one, sometimes the other. Duramboros can be quite the problem, however, for humans. They don't much distinguish between the wood used to build houses and huts and that felled themselves from trees. They have been known to consume entire villages before a hunter can be found to bring it down. A male roaming too close to a popularized area is a serious crisis, attacking travelers off the road, and, well, consuming the very carts they were using to transport what precious little goods they can muster, while leaving them broken and bloodied. The Duramboros is both an egg layer and a nest maker, the females doing the guarding, rearing, and feeding of the young, while the males, well, simply do what the hell they feel like. There's not the most equal dividing of work, really, when it comes to these guys, but hey, it seems to be working for them. They're a successful species. Who are we to judge? They are very much, though, still a large mystery. There is very rarely a specimen captured alive, and the guild is desperate to cut one open and really find out what makes it tick. There is then a subspecies to look at, the Rust Duramboros, more coppery pink in hue, and more suited to its desert home. This is where it gets its colouring, and the distinct lack of moss to line it means it keeps its younger appearance for much longer. They are much harder to age. It still has the large grinding molars to break down plant matter, though wood is few and far between, and this Duramboros is much less picky. The harsher environment comes with it harsher challenges, and as such the Rust Duramboros tail, less hammer-like, more axe-sweeping motions to scythe through foes and hunters alike. It is larger, it is more brutal, it is more powerful than its cousin, and the environment itself coating it in the sand and grit and dirt, doubling up as the extra layer of protection that even the moss cannot compete with. The Rust, not content with simply defending its territory viciously, will seek out and kill smaller herbivores, so there is more food for itself. Aptonoth, Kelby, Renephilos, yeah, they don't want to cross the path with this thing. It can turf Sandbarrioth out of its home, and generally it uses the desert as its stomping grounds, gleefully dominating with its foreboding power. It really is quite the upgrade on its more temperate, by comparison, forest self. And the most disturbing part of all of this is the colouring is not just from the dirt, from the sand, from the minerals, from the environment. No, the pinkish hues are from the blood of his enemies. Quite literally, he is bathing in the ichor of those he has slain. I mean, this guy eats plants, alright? He really does make Diablos look like a goddamn puppy. So as far as Duramboros goes in World, I mean, I would adore it. He is one of the more unique monsters, especially amongst the brutes. But my issue has always been, how could you get him to function without it looking really janky and weird? Because imagine a normal Duramboros in the forest, right? He's spinning around, you're moving out of his way, and he just would clip through everything, right? I feel like this is a technical issue, shouldn't be too hard to solve, but it's one that I can't keep away from. You'd have to have him shredding trees and destroying the environment because he's just too big. Imagine the mushroom zone in the ancient forest. You all know the one, the mushroom zone. It would need to be a much open area. Maybe something in Iceborne, but he doesn't strike me as a monster you can just shove in an environment and have him work. The big, open, mostly empty zone segments of the older games are fine for him. It doesn't matter if he's spinning through rocks at the side and phasing through objects, because, you know, that's not really the focus of the game. But World has the more natural, interactive, realistic vibe, and to make that work with someone like him, I mean, you could put in the Herd and have an in-game Monster Hunter Duramboros version of which would admittedly be awesome to see. But I don't know. He's something I would love, something I think should come, but I think he might need a little bit of tweaking in some unexpected ways. Though seeing him turf war, seeing him use that tail and just absolutely breaking in half some of the lesser monsters, hell, he could tee it up like a golf club and smack things like Jagras at you as ammunition. Imagine that! Or when he's spinning, he actually does just churn anything he hits flying away, cleaving through an Apsaros herd as they get launched skyward. I may be getting a little bit too fanciful with it, but it would just be so funny. What do you guys think of him? Anyway, I would love to know. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you'd like Lord next. Like if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more. Goodbye, Boros. What was that?
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.